Hello everyone. Happy Tuesday. It's time for another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. This is Lena Gersa. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Cambridge, Ontario, Canada. And today I am super excited to share with you these 3 fun and festive Christmas projects made using the Wishes and Wonder bundle and the Wonder of the Season suite from the August-December mini catalog. Now just give me a minute. I gotta take a drink of water. I have been teaching all day and my throat is super raw and sore because I've been teaching through a mask all day. So I have started my double quad at school, and the talking all day through a mask is really wreaking havoc on my voice. So I'm going to apologize right now if I don't sound like myself. It's because my voice is being taxed in ways that it never has before. So before we get going too far here, let me just pull up my video on my iPad so I can see who's joining me today. We'll just scroll down and really hope that Facebook works a little bit better today than it did last week. I was really frustrated when I watched the playback last week. Okay, so we have Deb and Heather and Claire. All right. Yes, I am a little bit hoarse, Heather. This whole teaching through a mask all day is not been kind to my voice. So I've got a glass of water here. I'm going to keep guzzling it. Hopefully it holds out for the next half hour, 40 minutes. All right. So as I was saying, we are going to be making these 3 projects. I'm going to walk you through how to do them. Believe it or not, I have done most of the stamping ahead of time and the coloring just so that you didn't have to watch me color these guys. But I want to show you, first of all, where you can find this suite in the catalog. It is located on pages 30 and 31. And it has so much going on. This is what we refer to as a mega suite because it has 2 bundles included. Now I'm going to be featuring this bundle, the Cherish the Season bundle, a little bit later in the month, but this one is what we're focusing on today, and then as well the gorgeous coordinating products. So we've got 2 DSPs in this suite, some awesome embellishments, and some gorgeous ribbon. Again, these I will feature on my social media this week, but I'm not going to talk about them today. Okay, so let me move these out of the way. I'm going to bring in the bundle so that you can see it up close and personal here. So of course we have a beautiful stamp set. I love the sort of vintage imagery in this set. And again, sort of that vintage font as well. It's very, very traditional Christmas. Of course, who doesn't love a beautiful sleigh and a beautiful stag? And then of course we have the coordinating dies. So several dies that cut out stamped images. So we have the sleigh, the deer, and the mistletoe sprig. This circle die cuts out the North Pole label, and then this one is just to do, you can do your to and from for tags, and then this one layers behind that. Okay, so you can make your tag, stamp your to and from, and decorate. We're actually going to make tags today, but we're not going to use that die today. All right, so let me get these out of the way and we will get to it. Oh, the Wawa ladies are here. Hello, Judy. I hope you're doing well. And everybody else from Wawa. I'm not sure who else is watching. Okay, so we're going to start with this one, and believe it or not, this card has 0 stamping on it. This gorgeous image right here is from the specialty DSP. So that DSP is easily missed in this suite. I'm just going to open it up again. It's this stuff right here, the Wonder of the Season, and honestly, the catalog does not do it even a little bit of justice. So I'm going to show you the actual page that I cut this from. It's meant to look kind of like an advertisement page in, oh, Heather, Wawa is a place in Northern Ontario. And I have a group of ladies who stamp together who enjoy watching my videos every Tuesday. So that's the Wawa connection, way up north. So this is the, as I said, the page of the DSP. It's got the gorgeous red foil. Okay. There's also a version of this same sheet in gold foil. So really, really pretty. There is the image that I cut out. So I ended up cutting it to 2 1/4 by 3 1/4. Okay. So essentially I basically put this into my trimmer and cut it here at 2 1/4, and it perfectly centers. Stampin' Up! Did a really good job of laying this out so that it's easy to cut. So let me pull in all my goodies here. So there is that cut image. So I cut, as I said, 2 1/4 by 3 1/4. Okay, gorgeous red foil. And then I cut a piece of the red foil sheets to layer behind it. And that red foil catches the light. And can you see that? I'm not sure how well that shows on the camera, but it's just so pretty and shiny. So I'm going to go ahead and layer those. Let me just find my, I've only got my Seal Plus here. I forgot to refill my seal from last week. That's okay. We'll just use Seal Plus. It works just fine. So we're going to layer this guy. We're going to have a narrow little 1/16 of an inch border. Okay. And then I have my background. So this is a piece of Whisper White cardstock. It's 4 by 5 1/4 inches. And it is embossed using that beautiful evergreen forest embossing folder. And honestly, this is such a wow folder. Normally when I do this, I emboss it. I use the thick Whisper White cardstock so that the cardstock doesn't curl quite this much, because it really does deeply emboss. So if you're worried about that, now we're going to glue this flat, so it'll be fine. But if you're worried about it curling, using the thick Whisper White, you'll get a better result. Okay. All right. So that is my background. Then I have a piece of the Wonder of the Season DSP. This is awesome DSP. Okay. Traditional reds and greens, sort of more patterns on one side and then more traditional imagery on the back. So of course I had to choose the trees for my tree card. So this is cut to 3 by 4 inches. I'm going to go ahead and glue that centered on my background. Now, I know somebody's going to say, oh, how could you cover up that beautiful embossing? Well, I can, and I will. You certainly could omit this panel if you wanted to on this card and you wanted to see more of the embossing. I just opted not to. So there you go. So there we go. We're gluing that on, centered onto the card front. And then I have another pattern from this same DSP pack. It is 2 by 5 1/4 inches. So we have a nice plaid. There's some holly on the back. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that along the left edge of my card front. Hello, Kathy and Colleen and Sue and Wendy. Thanks for joining me today. So we are going to glue this right along that edge. And of course I can't see white on white, so we're going to hope and trust that that is lined up. All right, now here I have a piece of the gorgeous ribbon that is part of this suite. It is double-sided, but it's not the same. So we have a matte on one side and more of a sheen on the other. So this is just a scrap that I had left over from prepping another project. So I'm just going to take and cut one end into a V. So I'm going to notch it. So I just fold my ribbon in half and cut on an angle. Okay, and then that is going to get glued across the front of my card. I'm going to leave a little bit of a tail that I can wrap around the back to hide the raw edge. So we'll put a little bit of seal on there and put that on right about there. And then on the back, I'm going to add just a little bit of seal and wrap it around. Okay, I'll just trim off that excess bit there. Come here. Okay, that's all there is to that. Now we're ready to glue this onto our card base. So our card base is 4 1/4 by 11 inches. This is thick Whisper White cardstock. I've scored it in the middle at 5 1/2. So we'll fold it in half along that score line. And when you're using the thick Whisper White especially, you definitely want to use a bone folder to crisp up that fold. This is very heavyweight cardstock. Okay, now I'm ready to go ahead and glue my panel onto the front of my card. So I'm just going to run some tape down here. Oh, is this one empty too? Oh my goodness, we're having a seal crisis. Here, we'll use this one. Lucky for me, I have another one handy. All right, so we're going to run some seal down the sides and across the top and bottom. And we are going to go ahead and adhere that centered on our card base. Just like that. Okay, so far so good. Pretty straightforward, eh? Next, I have, again, my panel that I cut from the DSP. That is going to get centered. So I'm kind of looking at that green background piece, and I'm going to center that so I have an even border on all 3 sides. But before I do that, I want to add some greenery. So these little pine boughs were cut using the beautiful boughs dies from Shaded Spruce cardstock. So I'm going to add a little bit of seal just in that top left corner of my panel here. And I'm going to add one little bell kind of poking upwards and one that's kind of aiming downwards. Okay, so that is going to get adhered right there. I'm going to pop it up with some dimensionals. And my dimensionals, this, I had a pack, this is the second page from the pack, that was cut right through. You see that? It's really annoying when you try to take the dimensionals off the sheet and the backing comes off with them. All right, I'll get rid of these guys. And we're going to pop that on. Again, I'm going to center it on my green panel. So I want to have equal border top and bottom and the right side. So equal border on 3 sides, okay? And then we're gonna add a little festive accent. So I have here one of the little mini jingle bells. I love these little guys. We're actually gonna use them on a couple projects today. And then I have some natural linen thread, okay? This is from the annual catalog. So I'm going to double it up. I'm gonna create a double bow here. And this is one of the rare times you're actually gonna see me thread through the little hole, little loop on the bell. So I'm taking the looped side, the folded side. It's a little bit easier to get it through. And just feeding it through there. Okay, so now I have my bell strung onto my thread. We'll cut that off the spool. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and tie a bow. I'm not gonna tie a knot first. So remember my twine bow, okay? So we're not gonna tie a knot. I've just got my bell hanging out there. I'm gonna make a loop. With the bell in between, I'm gonna bring my left tail around that loop and bring it through. Okay, and that gives you a nice tidy bow with the bell attached, and you don't have the big bulky knot there. Okay, so that's just a little tip for how to add a bow to these little bells if you want to use them as an embellishment on your project. Let me just adjust my loop. So anytime you're doing a double bow, again, you want to have one loop a little bit larger than the other. We'll trim off our tails, and then this is just going to get attached just in that top corner. I'm just going to add a glue dot. So I'm going to add a glue dot to the back of my bell. I have to do this with my right hand because I am not ambidextrous. So we're going to add our glue dot there, and then I'm also going to add one right behind the knot of the bell. And for that, I'm going, or knot of the bow rather, I'm going to just kind of make a little glue booger there and pick it up. And then that is going to get adhered just in that top corner, just like that. So it almost looks like the bell and the greenery are kind of tied to that top corner, just like that. Isn't that cute? And then we're going to add some bling because, well, every Christmas card has to sparkle. So we are going to add some of the embellishments that are part of this suite. So they come in this red, and the red kind of has little flecks of glitter through it. And then the gold ones have little flecks of gold. And this reminds me of Goldschlager liqueur. If you've ever had that, that's what it reminds me of, the little gold flecks that are floating in the Goldschlager. So you might have noticed that, you may notice that I refer to alcohol a lot more these days because I am drinking more wine these days because, you know, teaching right now is not an easy thing. So there you go. So there is project number 1. Did I do anything on the inside of this? No, I did not. I left it blank. Okay, so there is project number 1. No stamping required. Super easy. Quick and easy one. So many images on that DSP, wherever I put it. Here it is. You could cut out each one of these little ads and make it a really simple card front. Okay, super quick. All right, let's get that out of the way. We're going to bring in project number 2. This is the one I posted earlier today. And again, now this does have stamping on it, but I've already done it all. I did it ahead of time. So let me bring in my elements. So here we have a piece of the DSP. And, oh, Laura knows what I'm talking about with the Goldschlager. These are my Goldschlager embellishments, Laura. That's what it reminds me of every time I use them. Okay, so we have more of that awesome DSP. This is sort of a pine bough image on one side, and it's got the stripe on the other. It's cut to 4 by 5 1/4 inches. Then I have another piece of the same DSP that I've cut to 1 1/4 by 5 1/4. So basically what I did, and you can probably see, I'm not sure if you can see where this is attached. Let's see. There we go. So this was one 6 by 6 sheet. Okay. I cut off 3/4 of an inch on one end, and then I cut off 2 inches here to form my base, my background panel, and then I cut this down to 1 1/4. So easy way to use up one full sheet with very little waste. Okay. All right, so I'm going to take this one. I'm going to use the other side, right? So I'm going to trim this into a banner end. Now you could use your scissors. However, I have a triple banner punch and we still sell this. So it's nice to occasionally use it. You could also use your tailored tag punch, by the way. So I'm going to slide this in and center it. Now the sizes of the banners in this punch, you've got 1 inch, 1 1/2, and 2. Now this is 1 1/4, so it's not going to fit right into those little notches. Oh, yes it is. Never mind, it's 1 1/2. We're going to slide it in and punch. I thought it was 1 1/4. Look at that. I shouldn't trust myself these days. I don't know whether I'm coming or going most days. So now I'm going to go ahead and glue that onto the front of my card. This is a little bit longer. Can you see how that's a little bit longer? Doesn't really matter. When I trimmed this, I might have had a shorter scrap when I did that, but doesn't matter. I could certainly make it shorter if I wanted to. Maybe I do. Yeah, why not? Let's put it up there. So we're going to add a little bit of adhesive to the back of our little banner here. And I'm going to adhere it, and I'm going to shorten it by probably 1/2 inch. And it's going to go on about 3/4 of an inch in from that right edge. Okay, just like that. To get rid of that excess, it's just a matter of flipping it over and taking your snips and trimming it off. Okay, just like that. Okay, now we are going to add our other element. So here I have that gorgeous sled image that I have stamped and heat embossed in gold. And then I colored it using my cherry cobbler blends combo. Okay, the light and the dark. You can see the shadowing that I added with the dark. So that's my sled. And then here is my beautiful reindeer. This one is stamped in early espresso ink. And then I colored it using soft suede for most of the body. And then for sort of the chest here, I used the bronze blends. Okay, so that's how I colored those two. And then behind the sleigh, we're going to add some more pine boughs. So these are same die set that I used for the last one. It's the Beautiful Boughs dies. And there are several different dies in that set. One cuts 3 branches. This one cuts 5. And there's another one that cuts a single. But I like to just cut them apart so that I can arrange them individually anyway. So I just kind of cut a bunch and arrange as I go. So I'm going to take and add some of my pine boughs to the back side of my sled, both on the right side and the left side. So we're going to add a little bit of seal. And then we're going to add 1 branch and 2 branches. Okay, and then I'm also going to add one of these little sprigs. Now these are cut using the dies that coordinate with the sled. Okay, they are the North Pole Wonder dies, they're called. So I'm going to add a glue dot to my little sprig here, and we'll just kind of tuck that in there so it's peeking out from behind the sled. And then we're going to add 1 single branch here, and this is a little bit too bushy, so I'm going to just snip that off. And I'm just going to use a glue dot on this guy. So we'll add a glue dot there and have it kind of peeking out there. And then I have 2 more sprigs. I'm going to trim this because I do not need that much length. So we'll add a glue dot to that guy. And we're going to put it kind of that way. And a glue dot to this last one. And it's going to kind of come out this way. Okay, so now that is going to get adhered to the front of my panel. It's not going to be centered because my banner is off center. Now, if you are someone that likes things centered, you may want to move your banner over so that it is centered. I like it off, but that's just me. I'm a little off center. All right, so I'm going to add some dimensionals to the back of my sled here. And we're going to pop it up. So we'll add those. Thanks, Krista. Glad you like it. All right, so let's do that. And we're going to add our sled. Now, you don't want to put it too low. Okay, it's going to be sort of about, I don't know, 3/4 to an inch above the sort of the notch there in my little banner. And again, straight is always better than not. Okay, then we're going to add our deer. So he's kind of standing in front of the sled. And again, we're going to pop him up. Now, you have to keep in mind, right, this is popped and this guy's going to be popped in front of the sled. So there's going to be some areas that are double popped, right? So I want to put my dimensional mainly on the body so that they overlap the sled. So I'm going to kind of put one here and one here. Okay, so when I go to put that on, it's going to pop up on top of the sled, which is already popped. Does that make sense? I'm also going to add a couple of minis as soon as I find them. They're there. Just to the legs so that they stay popped as well. So we'll just kind of add two little guys down there. I'm not going to worry about anything behind the head because it's actually going to extend off the edge of the sled and it'll be just fine. It doesn't need any additional popping action. So there we go. Oh, that's not very straight. He's looking like a drunken reindeer. There we go. Okay. And then for our sentiment, we have sort of 3 layers here. So this is that seal image, that Made in the North Pole seal. Again, I've heat embossed it in gold. And I've actually punched this out using my 1.5 inch circle punch. So there is a circle die that comes in the die set that will cut. Whoops, I just dropped it. There we go. This die will cut this out, but you'll notice it's a little bit bigger. What I did is I actually used this die to cut out my cherry cobbler circle. So when I layered my 1.5 inch punch circle onto the one that I die cut, I get a really nice narrow border of red behind my seal. Okay, so that's just a little tip. I'm not sure that it says in the catalog you can punch this out with your 1.5 inch circle, but you can, and it works quite nicely like that. Okay, so we're going to glue that on. Grab a little bit of adhesive here. So we'll pop the embossed seal onto the red die cut circle. And then we have this gold seal. So this again is cut with the dies from gold foil cardstock. Let's just make sure that is centered. And we're going to pop this up. So we're going to add a couple of dimensionals here. And get rid of our backings. And then pop that on, hopefully centered-ish. It's hard to see. Okay, and then that is going to get layered just above our sled. And I kind of did it a little bit crooked purposely. I kind of wanted it to look like it was sort of carelessly stamped. So I'm going to add just a little bit of liquid glue here. And we're going to pop that on just here and a little bit crooked and off center. Okay, then that is ready to get adhered to our card base. So here I have a Shaded Spruce cardstock base. It is 4 1/4 by 11, scored in the middle at 5 1/2. So we'll fold that in half along our score line, crisp that up, and then we're going to add some adhesive to the back of our DSP panel. And we're going to pop that on to the front of our card. And you'll have a nice 1/8 of an inch border all the way around. Okay, and then of course we have to add a little bit of bling. Where'd my embellishments go? Where'd they go? There they are. So we're going to add some of our red, not our Goldschlager embellishments, but the red ones. And again, whenever you're adding these, you want to make a triangle. So we're going to kind of do 1 and 2, and we'll put 1 maybe here in the greenery like that. Okay, so we have our triangle that is more visually pleasing. Now on the inside of this one, I did decorate it. I stamped another sentiment from the Wishes and Wonder stamp set in Shaded Spruce, and then I added some of the mistletoe image and colored in some red berries with my cherry cobbler blends. Okay, so that's that one. Another really easy one. It does take a little bit of time to color your images, which is why I did it ahead of time. But again, totally doable if you are wanting to make a bunch for your Christmas cards this year. Okay, so that is number 2. I'm gonna get this out of the way. Number 3 is this fun gift set. So believe it or not, we have to start thinking about Christmas gifts, right? And teacher gifts, yay, teacher gifts. I actually talked to a parent last week who was, you know, sort of commiserating with the whole state of things. And her son, who is not the best of students, and she acknowledges that. And she actually asked me what kind of wine I wanted for Christmas. So I told her anything would work, anything white. And so she's like, oh, do you like Pinot Grigio? I said, sure. So I think I'm getting a bottle of Italian Pinot Grigio for Christmas from one of my students' parents. Anyhow, I should stop talking about alcohol and focus on the stamping. So we need to start thinking about Christmas gifts. Okay, and this would make a really fun and easy teacher gift. Okay, so this is a box set of 5 gift tags. So I'll just pull one out. So I'm going to show you how to make the tag as well as the insert and the belly band for the box. Okay, so let's do the tag first. I've got a whole bag full of goodies here. So I will pull out just the ones that I need for the tag just now. Well, I'm going to get more than I bargained for, but that's okay. Okay, so for the tag, this is a piece of Shaded Spruce cardstock. It is 2 by 4 inches, okay? This was just leftover scrap that I had kicking around. So I cut it to 2 by 4. And then I have a piece, again, scrap piece of DSP that I cut to 2 by 3. Or sorry, 1 3/4. 1 3/4? Yes, 1 3/4? Yes. No, that's the wrong size. It should be 1 3/4. Let's fix that. This is why you don't prep for your video after teaching all day. So let's cut this down to 1 3/4 by 3 inches. All right. And then we are going to use our tag topper punch to punch the top, this decorative top, on our Shaded Spruce cardstock. Okay, so the largest opening on this punch is 2 inches. So this will fit in quite nicely. So I'm going to push it all the way in. I find when I'm using these punches, they work best if I'm working with them right on my desk, okay, rather than holding them like we do with most punches. So I'm going to put it in as far as it'll go and punch. Okay, and instantly I get a beautiful tag. All right, so that is how the tag topper punches work. And then again, I have my 1 3/4 by 3 inch piece of DSP. So we're gonna round the corners on this. Did you know Stampin' Up! Carries a corner rounder punch? A lot of people miss it because they don't really know what this is. So this is our triple something punch. I can't remember the name of it right now. It's in the annual. And this little punch here, so this is actually a 3-sided punch. You can do 3 different decorative finishes. So this one punches a decorative corner, okay? This one will punch the hole on your tag. It actually goes in this way, so you just kind of center your piece and it punches the hole. And then this one rounds your corner. So again, this is another one of those punches that works best with it sitting directly on your tabletop. Louise, why did I not use the die in the set? Because I had a whole whack of this cardstock that was this size that I wanted to use up. That's why. The die in the set is actually larger. Okay, it would not quite fit my scraps that I had. Okay, sometimes necessity is the mother of invention, and I had a whole bunch of scraps that I wanted to use. But good question. You could totally use the die in the set. The other thing too is sometimes it's faster for me to just cut a bunch of cardstock and punch it rather than cranking out a whole bunch of die cuts. Okay, depends on how much time you have. All right. So I'm going to round my corners using the corner rounder part on this punch. So when you put this in, there's kind of a 90-degree corner that you're going to put your paper in and just sort of snug it up to. So you want to make sure it's in nice and snug and punch. Okay. And then I find it's easiest if I just flip it over, put it in and punch. You could rotate it and do it this way, but I find it's a little bit harder to get it centered when you have a shorter edge here. That's just been my experience. So then I'm going to flip it around and do the same thing on the other 2 corners. So now I have my nicely rounded corners on my DSP. I'm going to round the bottom corners on my tag. So again, I'm going to put that in, punch, flip, and punch. And look at that. Lovely rounded corners. So that's one of those sort of hidden gems in the catalog that I thought I would highlight for you guys because it's easy to miss. Miss. And no, I have not been drinking yet. All right, so we are going to go ahead and add our DSP to the front of our tag. So I'm just going to take and add a little bit of liquid glue here. I can only drink white. Heather, I get really bad headaches from red. So I am a white wine kind of gal. And I know some people can't stand white wine. That's their prerogative. I can't stand red. So there we go. All right, so there is our tag. Now, the other thing I want to show you is on the back, I actually punched and stamped a shape to write the to and from on. You know why I did that? Because I really hate throwing out my handmade tags. So what I do is I stamp my piece, and then the next year I can just stamp and cut and cover it up with a new name and reuse my tags. Okay, that's why I do it that way. So let's stamp that. So I'm going to bring in my to and from and my mistletoe, and I just realized I didn't bring my Shaded Spruce ink over here. I got to grab that. But first we can stamp our to and from. So I'm just going to use my Memento Black for the to and from. So we're going to just stamp that on our little circle here. And then I'm going to grab my Shaded Spruce. And we're going to stamp our mistletoe sort of along the top and bottom edges just to decorate that a little bit. Okay, so a little bit of ink. My Shaded Spruce is getting rather dry. So we'll add just a little bit at the top and a little bit at the bottom just to decorate that. Okay, and then again, year after year, you can just cover it up. It'll get to a point where it's a little thick and you might need to finally give in and make new tags, but you can get a few years worth of tags just out of one tag making session by just covering it up. Okay, so we're going to glue that to the back of our tag. So again, a little bit of liquid glue there, and center that on the back of our tag. Okay, this is punched just using the 1 3/4 inch circle punch. I should have mentioned that. I don't think I did. Okay, all right, so we have this beautiful die cut stag. So in the die set, there are 2 dies that cut the deer. This one cuts the stamped deer, and then this one cuts this beautiful detailed stag. Okay, so we are going to glue him on. We're going to pop him up a little bit on the front of our tag here. We're putting a stag on our tag. Ba-dump-chomp. All right, so a couple of minis on the legs. We'll put one kind of there, and then we're going to put one on the head as well so it stays popped. We'll get rid of our backings. My thumbnail has not grown back yet. I always find it a challenge when I bite my thumbnail off. All right, so we're going to put our stag kind of along that left side. That gives us some room to do our label, our little stamp label. So I'm going to bring in, again, my Memento Black. And we are going to stamp that just on a scrap of white cardstock. Okay. And I'm going to punch that out using my 1 1/2 inch circle punch, which is right here. So you're going to see when I put that in, it just fits quite nicely. Okay, so I'm going to center that in there. Pop it out. And then, again, I have another circle that I cut using the die from the die set. And this is cut, all of these are cut using the brass foil sheets. Oh my goodness, you guys. If you didn't think you needed the brass foil sheets because you have gold, I'm telling you, you're wrong. These are gorgeous. They are so shiny. They make the gold look dull. I'm just going to say it. They're awesome. So I'm going to add a couple of dimensionals to the back of my punched label here. And we're going to center that on our brass die cut circle. Okay, and then we have some greenery. So these again are more of those little sprigs. The sprigs are in the die set. It comes with 3 of them. Okay, these are cut from Shaded Spruce. So again, we'll add glue dots, and these are going to kind of go just off to one side. I'm going to trim this a little bit shorter because I don't need all of that length. And we'll add another one here. Okay, oh, got some goop on my one die cut there. And then that is just going to kind of be off to the side here. Again, a little bit crooked, but glued flat. Okay, so we'll add just a little bit of liquid glue there. And pop that on right about there. Okay, so our little sprigs are kind of trailing off the side. And then again, to add a little bit of blingity bling, we're going to add a couple of our little red embellishments. So I put one big one sort of on my circle there, and then two smaller ones on the greenery. Make them look a little bit like berries. Okay, so there is your finished tag. Now I'm going to show you how I did the ribbon. You could decide whether or not you want to include this. I just think that the ribbon adds a really nice finishing touch to it. You certainly don't have to, but I just really like the look of that. So I'm going to show you how I did it. So again, this is some scrap that I had left over, and I had cut a bunch of ribbon in, I'd notched the ribbon, right? So when you cut it, you get this leftover V, and it works out quite nicely when you're trying to feed your ribbon through the hole. So I'm going to take that pointy V, and I'm going to flip it over so that I have the shiny side out. I'm going to poke it through my hole and pull my ribbon through gently because the ribbon is quite wide. It's, I think, 1.25 inches wide. So I'm going to pull it through until I have it about equal. Okay. Then I'm going to bring in the gold cord. So this ribbon and this gold cord are sold in a combo pack as part of this suite. You can buy just the combo pack, but it is part of this Wishes and Wonder of the Season suite. And I'm going to cut off, I don't know, about 8 or 10 inches of the cord. I'm going to lay my tag down with my tails of my ribbon kind of going straight up. And then I'm going to bring my cord around, and I'm going to tie a knot right at the top of the tag. Okay, so that kind of gathers your ribbon. And I just think it's a really nice touch on the tag. So I'm tying just a single knot. Then I'm going to bring in one of my little gold bells this time. This is the gold and the green ones that we used on the last one are in the same pack. So you get gold, green, and cherry cobbler. So gold, shaded spruce, and cherry cobbler. So I added my bell. Then I'm going to tie another knot. Okay, and that's going to hold that securely. Okay, then I can go ahead and make my bow. Pull it tight, play around with the size of my loops, get my tails arranged the way I want them. So again, whenever you're trying to make a pretty bow, take the time. If you don't get a bow that you like the first time out, play with it a little bit. You'd be amazed at what you can tease out of a bow that starts out looking not so great. Okay, and then to finish off the ends, I'm going to cut them into a V. So I'm going to fold one layer of my ribbon in half and cut at an angle. And then same thing on the back, fold it in half and cut at an angle. And that gives us the nicely finished top of our tag. Isn't that cute? So cute and really easy. Okay, and a great way to use up scraps, which was my goal when I was doing these. And they make sound. They're festive. All right, so that's the tags. Let me show you how to make the insert and the belly band that goes around our box. So the insert, these are sized to fit in the acetate card boxes that are in the annual catalog. The acetate card boxes come folded flat like this, so you have to kind of help it take shape by folding along all of your score lines there, okay, to form your box. Fold your little flaps in. Okay, now I'm not going to close this up just yet because we're going to add our insert in a minute. Okay, but that's how you form your box. It's really easy, no glue required. Okay, all right. So here, to make the insert, I have a piece of Shaded Spruce cardstock. It is 6 3/4 long. I'm measuring this because I want to make sure I give you the right dimensions, by 4 3/8. So 4 3/8 by 6 3/4. I have scored it. Well, if you put it in this way, it's at a 1/2 inch and then 1 inch. Okay, so that's where my score lines are. So 1/2 inch and 1 inch. So then I'm going to fold along those score lines. Okay, so I folded the first one upwards and then the second one downwards. All right, and then I'm going to flip that over. I'm going to add some adhesive inside those folded little flaps, and then I'm just going to fold that over on itself. Okay, and then I get a lip here, and that's going to form the lip that goes at the bottom of our box and kind of holds our tags. Okay, all right, then I have a piece of DSP. Again, this is more DSP from that pack. It is gorgeous DSP. If you like traditional red and green, you need this pack. It's awesome. So this one is size, let me just get these right, 4 1/4 by 5 5/8. So 4 1/4 by 5 5/8. So when I go to glue this on, I'm going to have a little 1/16 of an inch border all the way around. Okay, so we will add some adhesive to the back of our panel. And pop that on. We're going to just make sure that that's nice and straight. Okay, so that forms our insert. So when we slide that into our box, I like to slide it in so that the box is going to close to the back. So I have a nice clean finish on the front. Okay, so this is going to slide in. I'm going to close the bottom of my box. Okay, and then I'm ready to add my tag. So I can add my one that, well, I'll add 2. 5 is kind of the max you can get in here without them kind of getting munched. I tried to get 6 in and it did not go well. My little sprigs got kind of crunched. So just a word of advice, if you're trying to make this, 5 is kind of your max. Okay, so there are my tags, and then I can close up my box. And then when I'm sealing my, or closing my box, I want to tuck my tab here in behind my insert so that when I look at it from the front, it's nice and clean. Okay, all right, so now let me show you how to do the belly band. So this is the finished one. Okay, and I'll show you how I did that. So I have, again, more scrap. This is tags and this kind of thing. Belly bands are a great way to use up oddball scraps. Okay, so this is 1 1/4 by 11. All right, I just want to double check. Yes, 1 1/4 by 11. I'm second guessing myself. So to make our belly band, we're just going to lay our cardstock down. We're going to put our box on top. Okay, and I'm just going to very gently fold that around my box. Okay, I'm not doing any scoring. I'm just kind of gently folding it. And then I'm just going to kind of pinch the folds to sort of seal or firm them up. Okay, I don't want this to be too tight. I want my belly band to be able to slide on and off. Now, if you want this to be permanent, you could certainly do it tighter and actually adhere it right to the front of the box. But I want to be able to reuse this, right? I'm all about reusing things. So being able to reuse this box once I'm done with it, if I make a belly band that's reusable and an insert that's removable, then I can reuse this box for something else. Okay. All right, so I have my belly band wrapped around. I'm going to apply a little bit of adhesive to one end. And then again, I'm going to wrap this around. And as I'm gluing, I want to make sure that my edges line up. Okay, so it's nice and square. Okay, then I have another piece of the same DSP. Again, this is part of the offcut from when I cut that background panel. This is, again, measurements 1 1/8 by 4 3/8. 1 1/8 by 4 3/8. And you'll see when I go to glue that on there, it's going to kind of cover up my join on my belly band and just give me a nice little accent against the background. Okay, so we're going to add that. A little bit of glue, and we'll pop that on there. And the reason I use the liquid glue is because it gives me that wiggle time to get this exactly where I want it. Okay, and then we are going to make our label. So let me just set this aside for a second. So I still have my white scrap from the last project, and I'm going to bring in my special delivery stamp, and I'm going to bring back my black ink. So we're going to ink up our special delivery, stamp it on our scrap, and then I'm going to use my tailored tag punch as a tag punch instead of using it to make my banner ends. So I'm going to go ahead and center that inside the window on my punch and pop it out. Okay, this makes a really lovely tag. I need to use it more as a tag rather than just for my banner ends. All right, so then we're going to pop that up on another brass element. So this is the brass foil again, and this is the story label punch. Okay, and the tailored tag layers quite nicely over that. Isn't that a pretty layering effect? So we're going to pop this one up. So we'll add a couple of dimensionals. 1, 2, and 3. And we'll get rid of our backings. And then we're going to pop that. And I got to move this down, you guys. I'm sorry. It is really hard for me to see to get this centered with the camera in the way. That's not bad. Okay. Then again, we're going to add some sprigs, some greenery. So we have some green greenery and we have some brass greenery. So we are going to add we're going to add 3 green ones on either ends. We're going to do kind of a long and some shorts. So again, the easiest way I found is to just use some seal. You certainly can do this with glue dots. I'm going to cut this guy off because he doesn't need to be quite that long. So I have my one in the center, okay, and then my shorter ones kind of top. And sometimes you have to add more adhesive because you're layering cardstock on cardstock instead of cardstock on adhesive. So we'll add this guy, and then this little guy will probably stick because there's enough. Okay, and then I'm going to take a couple of brass, and again we'll add a glue dot and sort of tuck that in. Oh, don't want to overlap it perfectly. We want to have it sort of peeking out. And then another one on this side, right there. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing on the other end. So again, I'm going to trim my long one so it's not quite as long. And I'll just do these all with glue dots just because it's faster. So glue dots, and whoopsie, another glue dot here, and another one down here. Okay, and then again we're going to add our brass. I'm going to cut this guy shorter. I keep cutting these long ones. You can use the long ones as they are. I just tend to cut them off because they're too long for my liking. So I'm going to add one there and one more here. Okay, so that gives me my sort of decorated label. Now, before we put that on to the front of our belly band, we're going to add some cording. So for this, all I did was I took a glue dot and I kind of started where I knew the tag was going to cover it. I pressed one end of my cord into that glue dot, and then I wrapped it around. As I came around, I sort of pressed it into the glue dot again. Let's just make sure that that's going where I want it to. There we go. Make sure it's snug. And then a second time as well. Okay, and then again, I pressed it into the glue dot. So you only need one glue dot to hold both ends of your cord in place. Okay, and then I'm going to add my label. So that is going to get centered on the front. Again, I'm going to add some dimensionals. I'm going to kind of go top and bottom on my label. So kind of one there and one there, because it's quite full here. So I'm not going to worry about that. It's going to lay nice and flat over top of the cording. So we're going to go ahead and adhere that just like that. Okay, and then we are going to add our bells. Now, these are not threaded onto this bow. Okay, this is a little cheater thing I did here. So I'm going to start by tying my double bow. So I'm taking my cord, I am doubling the length, okay, making my loop, bringing my tail around and through, not tying a knot first. Okay, if you try to tie a knot first, you will end up with a really clunky, chunky knot in the middle, especially when you're doing a double bow. Okay, so I'm going to play with my loops here, get them nice and even, and trim this off the roll. Okay, so there is my double bow. And then I have my 2 little gold jingle bells. So they are going to get glued on just with some glue dots. I'm going to glue them right directly onto my belly band. So I'm just going to press the bell into a glue dot and then press it into place where I want it to go. Okay, and then same thing with this guy. Oopsie, that one did not stick. There we go. And then that is going to get pressed into place there. And then I'm just going to add my bow right over top of my bells, and it's going to look like they're tied onto the bow, but they're actually not. So I'm going to again press the knot of my bow into a glue dot and just adhere that to the top of my bells just like that. Isn't that cute? Such a cute little gift, and not like super inexpensive and not overly time consuming. Making these tags is pretty quick. If you cut them all and do them all at once, it's pretty quick. So you could make a bunch of these in an evening or a weekend and give them, and people will think you are like the best thing since sliced bread because you handmade some beautiful tags for them. Okay, so quick and easy, great neighbor gift for whoever. And then I almost forgot, we have to add our bling. So we're going to add some more of our little red embellishments here, our little berries. And these you can just stick directly onto the greenery, just to add that extra little bit of something something. And I find with these particular embellishments, you need to be generous with them. Like using 1 or 2 is kind of stingy. Be generous. Okay? They have a lot more presence when you use a few of them. Okay? Let me get rid of my mess here, or a little bit of my mess, so I can bring back all the projects from today. I'll bring back the one that has more in it, so it looks a little bit fuller. So there's our tags and box and our 2 cards. Super easy, but so pretty and very traditional, red and green. For those of you who like your traditional red and green Christmas cards, pretty simple. Okay. All right, Krista, you can buy the combo pack. You can use the green ribbon on gifts. It's great ribbon for tying up gifts. Ask me how I know. I tied 30 retreat boxes with it. Okay, everybody, thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed these projects, and I will see you again next week for another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. Bye for now.